Harshali, if you could please present Galia. I'm sorry, but given the time and all, maybe if you could see what parts to, bring her out the best. Thank you.
I'll speed read. First of all, good evening to everybody and good evening to Parikshit ji. I'm so honored to be here sharing a stage with such wonderful people. Thank you so much, Akshat. Of course, my thank you comes personally to you later on, but also to the Russian Center. And to all of you who've taken out time to come and listen to us. And I'm sure there won't be a moment that you will feel or regret listening to the next part that I'm going to be talking about. This is the encounter with the Russian girl. As you've understood by now, I'm sure, the book is written in first person. And while I was reading this part and the others, I realized how heartfelt the writing is, how deeply impacted Parikshit ji was with the people he met around him, the relationships he had. So this part, encounter with the Russian girl, with your permission, sir, starts with a wonderful 4 lines by Pushkin, and it goes like this. Haunted by days he can't regain, for him there are no more enchantments. Him does the serpent of remembrance, him does repentance always gnaw. That's how this part starts, and I think it gives it encapsulates the kind of feelings that this part is going to evoke in all of us. So I'll quickly get into it. I got a phone call from Russia one morning. A mysterious female voice said succinctly, "Galina is dead. She said she waited for you, but the cancer got to her first." I had left Russia and Galina 45 years ago. I had never gone back. Galina had waited for me for almost half a century, and she had died waiting. There is a concept in Judaism called Teshua, as I was just talking about. It means repentance. The Christians believe that a man is born in sin, thanks to Adam and the bite he took of the apple offered to him by Eve, who was offered it by the devious serpent, which irrevocably changed the fate of humankind. And so, Christians believe that a man is a congenital sinner and can be redeemed only if he becomes a Christian and is washed clean by the blood of Christ. Not so according to the Jews. According to Judaism, a religion that I have been studying closely of late at the time, God creates man in his own image and loves him. Now, I think that encapsulates what Sir was just talking about. So God created man in his own image and loves him more than a man loves himself. The evil one, or the devil, whom they call Yesterhara, makes a man prone to sin. Yetzahara makes a man prone to sin. But man can ask forgiveness of God and promise to improve himself and never repeat his sinful behavior again. And if he is earnest and speaks from his heart, there is a fair chance that God might forgive him. It all depends on how sincere a man is. I think that we all agree to. I think that's similar in all religions. The Yesterhara seems to have done a thorough job on me, of course. I have been a cad, and even if the Lord does forgive me, I will never forgive myself. I think that is where the first time you realize how repentant Parikshit ji and the author in this case is. Like Pushkin's Eugene Onegin, I was spoilt by the life that I had been granted. Being the son of a celebrity in school and in college, I was treated like a VIP and someone special by everybody. I began to take this for granted, and as a result, like Pushkin's protagonist, turned into an incorrigible narcissist. I have to give you that, Parikshit ji. There is a lot of mindfulness in your writing. Love your own self, he says. Be your own man. A worthwhile object, surely. Who could be more lovable than you? I was 18 when I went to Russia and 24 when I got back. Thanks to Raj Kapoor Sahab and Jawaharlal Nehru, Indians were very popular in Russia in those days. I was the only Indian at the institute and was singled out instantly. This turned me, in addition to being a narcissist, into an incorrigible prig. Moscow is close to the Arctic Circle and as mysterious and exhilarating to me as the tropics are for the Russians. I was captivated by Russia's northern beauty, its countryside and its forests. I spent long hours walking among the birch and fir trees. The birch trees reminded me of Kashmir. In Kashmir, however, they are much taller and called safedas. So it was with the fir trees. In Russia, they are the same kind as the fir trees in Gulmarg, but the latter are taller. My family was from the north, which is where I grew up. The tropics where we shifted later on were alien to us. So Russia's scenery was, if much exaggerated and tougher, still familiar. It was a burnished glimpse of home. By my third year in Moscow, I had become thoroughly Russianized. I spoke the native tongue fluently, loved the sharp turns of weather, dressed, walked, talked, and even thought like a Russian. The professors in our class watched me walk around with a fur hat, without a fur hat, and winter coat or gloves in the cold wouldn't believe that I was from the tropics. They often took me aside and asked me surreptitiously, "Are you really Indian?" Russian girls were charming and I couldn't help being drawn to them. And I dare say they were drawn to me. I was an oddity for them. For most of them, I was the first Indian they had ever set eyes on. Russians, by and large, are a sensitive and emotional lot, and Russian women are the most emotional of them all. Ladies in Russia are caring and tender, and whatever happens, they will be by your shoulder, ready to face any trouble together. I learned the veracity of this statement when I met Galia. The quintessential Russian woman was portrayed as Lara in David Lean's film Dr. Zhivago. Have you all read the book or seen the movie? We all have. And played to perfection by Julie Christie. Galina resembled Lara a great deal. Galia, short for Galina, was tall and well-built, had hazel eyes and light brown hair. She had an upturned nose and high cheekbones, and full red lips that broke into a smile at the smallest pretexts, displaying a row of even white teeth. How beautifully described, sir. She was blessed, as most young Russian women are, with pink cheeks and an unblemished skin. I was introduced to her by my camera person friend Petya. She was from Serbia and lived alone in Moscow in a small one-bedroom flat. Petya took me to her flat one evening. She was a talented cook, as most Russians are, and prepared a great meal for us. As is the custom in Russia, we drank a fair amount of vodka with the meal. I had more than that was strictly good for me, and it went to my head. I passed out in her flat, and I woke up the next morning in Galina's flat with a horrendous hangover. I looked around. I was alone. It was 11 in the morning, and there was no sign of Galia or Petya anywhere. I was surprised to find myself undressed and in Galina's bed. My shirt, cardigan, trousers, and coat lay neatly folded in the armchair at the foot of the bed. On the small table beside the bed stood a tray with bread, salami, scrambled eggs, mashed potatoes, and the rest, and a note which said, "I have gone to work and will be back in the evening. Your breakfast is laid out, and also a bottle of red dry wine. Lunch is laid out in the kitchen. Please make yourself at home. Last night was wonderful." I didn't remember what had happened last night and felt a bit fuzzy and confused on that score. Typical. I walked around the place. I had lived in hostels all my life and was living in one at that moment. Galia's small flat was warm. It was snug and friendly. It was comfortable. I had breakfast and then slept like a log. After a sumptuous lunch with dry red wine, I slept again. When I got up in the evening, Galia was back. She was washing my white shirt in the sink. It was a bit soiled at the collar, she said, and will dry by morning. You can wear it again when you go to the institute tomorrow. Bring me the rest of your soiled clothes on your way back tomorrow. I will wash them for you. Please listen carefully to the next part. I think this is the part that I reread because I could maybe relate to it a little bit more. Galia was a woman of few words, but her actions showed that she cared for me. The word love was never exchanged between us. I was a hard-hearted, hard-boiled egoist, bereft of any tender feelings. I think that was because I had never lived with a family before. We were refugees from Pakistan, and my family was at loose ends for many years before it could strike roots in India. My mother had died in Bombay before partition, and while I was still a child. I had been living with my grandparents in Rawalpindi. I never got to know my mother, nor did I miss her when I was told that she had passed away. I grew up into what can best be described as a gloomy oddball like Pushkin's hero. I, in love, was stupid, mute. I moved in with Galia, but as a matter of convenience, not for any other reason. I had been adrift and homeless for as long as I could remember. Galia's little flat imparted to me a feeling of warmth and permanence that I had missed all my life. Life became well ordered, settled, and started moving along on an even keel. Galia was level-headed and strong, and I came to depend on her a lot. I still missed India sometimes. Living with Galia, however, was a good arrangement, and I stuck to it even though I knew that it was ephemeral. I didn't say anything about this to Galia. Sometimes I would toy with the idea of settling down in Russia for good. I will stop now because I think this is one of the books, the parts that I read, I think within a span of 3 hours or something after I got it last evening. And it was a wonderful experience to relate to a lot of parts that were written, especially where a person feels adrift. So my question to you, sir, if I may, I hope you can hear me. There is a bit, and I want you to read it further because there is a place where he's leaving for India, and I don't know whether, are you reading that part?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I think, so I won't ask that, yes. So I won't ask that question, but I'd like to know, what was it about the lady, Galia, I am struggling to say that she was your soulmate, but what was it about her that probably you still remember, that one quality that you could never forget about her?
Well, it's a question that you cannot really answer because when it's a question about souls, a soul mate is a soul mate, and a soul cannot be described. I mean, there's no description for you will just feel it. You just feel it in your veins that this person is meant for you. You can't write it down in words. It's just a very, very, very amorphous feeling that you have for a person when you feel that way.
That's true. And I think it has translated a little bit in your words. And that is why maybe I could pick that up because you've not used that word soulmate for her, but your writing is so evocative. It is so relatable that I was in awe of it. Thank you so much for allowing me this, ma'am.
You're most welcome, ma'am.